He seemed to be the calmest and most laid-back, chill student in his class. He never drew anyone's attention and always tried to keep a low profile. Many of his classmates didn't like him, simply because he seemed to ignore everyone who tried to talk to him. Angry, the bully tries to slap him while he's sleeping, but with his eyes still closed and half asleep, he grabs the guy's arm, which shocks the trash, and in an instant asks if there's something he wants. The guy pulls his arm back and says he's a real weirdo. Others in the class tell him not to worry about a loser like that, but what no one knows is that the protagonist lives two lives. In the morning, he's a student, and at night, he works as the most lethal assassin in the city. His name is Araji Kai, and he's just a 17-year-old student. On a sleepy day like any other, suddenly a magic circle appears under the entire classroom. Everyone panics trying to understand what's happening, and before they can react, they all appear somewhere else. While some students look terrified and others try to organize themselves, Araji Kai is already sung Jinwoo's aura for absolutely no reason while leaning against a wall, but all this is quickly interrupted when a woman dressed in white and an old man appear. She introduces herself as the saint who summoned them to that place. Araji Kai quietly changes position, farming aura on another pillar. The usual cliche unfolds. The model student steps forward, trying to understand what's going on. The saintly woman, the one I wish would heal me, explains that they were invited as the heroes of this world. But suddenly, the hot-headed guy tries to punch the old man, thinking he has a chance. But with a simple move, the guy's forehead gets flicked. The saint warns them it's best to stay quiet and behave. "Ok, mommy, I'm behaving. But why you're only exposing your belly button?" Then she starts explaining about the Demon King, and the protagonist thinks this is way too cliche. The hot-headed one still doesn't give up, but the saint uses a little healing spell on him, instantly recovering his wounds. Some students are shocked and impressed, and she reveals that this is the magic granted by the system. Then she goes from student to student, awakening their powers. Some summon swords, others summon pens. The hot-headed guy gets an explosion spell, and the whole class celebrates. Just as the saint is about to leave, our sleepy Araji Jinwoo calls out from the back, saying she forgot him. When she activates his power, the skill he receives is the most useless thing ever. He can simply see other people's stats and abilities. And that's when he discovers that Eleonora Degara's the saint is 18 years old, meaning it's all good guys. No one's going to jail. At least he's relieved because it's easy to understand. Then he feels something at his side. It's Arashi, punching him into the ground. Apparently, he tried to hit the protagonist and asks, "Hey, idiot, what'd you think of my explosion, huh? What did that little red eye of yours see?" The others laugh at him just because he has a red eye. They treat him like the class loser. "You guys want to pick a fight with our aura farmer?" Nagase says that's what he gets for thinking he's special and being last to receive a talent. Araji, though, doesn't understand why they're acting like that. They don't even have enough info to know what will be useful. Besides, the divine protection feels like a borrowed power. Who knows when it might be taken away? And he's sure there are countless other ways to kill people. The saint cuts through the chatter, saying that now that they've received protection, it's time to start learning how to use these powers to kill the Demon King. She asks that for today, everyone rest. Later that night, each of them is taken to their rooms. Araji, however, decides it's time to start the second shift of work. He's going to gather information. Some guards are patrolling around the castle, complaining, "Damn, why the hell are we walking back and forth out here?" Another one answers it's because the so-called heroes showed up and they can't be allowed to escape. Still, he doesn't believe those guys can even fight. How would trash like that ever defeat the Demon King? The saint must have some trick up her sleeve. Of course, Araji overhears all of this. He also realizes that, for some reason, the saint is tightening the castle's defenses to keep a closer watch on them. He activates his talent and sees that one of the guards is named Jin and has fencing at level 1. Then he bolts like Naruto, thinking they can't detect when he uses his ability. He manages to get a rough map of the castle's layout and notices how heavily fortified it is. In front of a huge gate, 2 soldiers stand guard. Escaping this place is going to be harder than he thought. While sneaking across the grass, he stumbles upon 3 girls chatting in the middle of the night. The brunette on the right says maybe they shouldn't be doing this. He'll get mad. The one on the left insists it's fine, they're only practicing a little. Nagase lifts up her flames, saying they all have to understand. Nobody's able to sleep anyway, and a bit of training will be great for strengthening their powers. Soon they're at it. Fire, plants, water, all flying around while Araji quietly watches. They're using divine protection, and he's curious to see how it works. But suddenly, something rushes past him, giving him a strange sensation. One of the girls glances sideways, wondering what that weird noise was. Before they can figure it out, a huge beast bursts out of the bushes in front of them. The 3 freeze in confusion while Araji wonders what kind of lizard this is. He's never seen this species before. He uses his power and learns it's a 4-year-old lizard Val, aggressive but without any special abilities. The problem is that its stats are way higher than the girls. The monster raises its head, inhales, and unleashes a roar. The girls start running, but the creature charges right after them, while Araji observes from a distance. Its aggressive nature drives it to attack without hesitation. It moves quickly, but its legs only carry it straight forward. No strategy, no real intelligence. Araji decides to test its skin's durability, so he throws a knife. It hits, drawing only a shallow cut. The beast halts for a moment, and Araji notes the throw was effective, though the wound wasn't deep. The trio is sprinting in panic when Nagase stumbles on a rock and falls. She's scrambling to get up, but the lizard is already closing in. Seeing how near it is, she screams desperately, but the creature is already swinging its claw. She raises her arm and cries out for help, when suddenly, boom, the beast collapses dead right in front of her. She's left shocked as the other two rush to pull her to her feet. They wonder who saved her. Either way, whoever it was, they'd better get moving before more monsters show up. Araji stands off to the side, farming aura, thinking, I had no reason to save them, but I would have felt guilty ignoring it completely. So it looks like monsters really do roam this world. Things aren't going to be as easy as I thought. Just then, he senses something off and hides behind the fallen lizard, trying to figure out if someone else is there. Realizing he needs to return to his room, he slips away. But behind a pillar, a hooded figure steps forward, places a foot on the lizard's body, and mutters that he thought these heroes would be a disappointment. But one of them carries the same scent as him. Next chapter, the monster's carcass lies sprawled on the ground, and everyone is left shaken. Gaius tells everyone that this creature was found close to the castle. The group is lost in thought while another student is already crying in despair. The old knight explains that the Demon King drives monsters insane, making them crave human flesh. These are exactly the kinds of creatures they'll have to learn to fight. Then the blonde boy who was inspecting the body says it looks like some kind of magic was used to finish the creature off. Probably someone nearby was interested in the hero's powers after learning the candidates had appeared. He even uses the word sorcery, and Araji wonders if that's different from magic. Mido jumps in, demanding to know what this business is about monsters being controlled by the Demon King. The blonde explains that powerful demons have servitude magic, which allows them to control weaker creatures. Basically, he's saying the Demon King is extremely strong and controls everything. But the old knight cuts him off, saying not to listen to that weirdo. Araji already knows who he could ask for more information, but he's also worried about the idea of this monster having been controlled. He remembers when he saw the monster's profile earlier. It showed that condition, and now it makes sense. That murderous intent he felt must have come from a demon. He has to be careful. He barely noticed that presence, and only for a moment. Whoever it was could even be among them right now. Suddenly, he feels something watching him from behind, and a voice says that this fear will only lead him to death. Araji is shaken, while Arashi loudly declares that nothing has changed. He just has to kill these demons as fast as possible and get back to his country. For once, the classmates actually agree with him. They know they have to get stronger because fighting is their only choice. The poor side characters are trembling, knowing they're just cannon fodder waiting to die. Araji realizes that reality is finally sinking in for all of them. That's when Leonora steps forward and tells them not to be afraid. All they need to do is learn how to use their powers. They were chosen as hero candidates, and their growth rate is much faster compared to the people of this world. A week passes after the training begins. Flipping through a book, Araji mutters, well, I can understand all the words written here. Honestly, it's already strange that we can communicate so easily. I look outside the window and see everyone having fun. It looks more like an amusement park than a group of heroes in training. At first, I thought my divine protection, the Eye of Judgment, would be useful in battle. But the truth is, it's useless so far, and I've only been allowed to stay in this library. The saint had even said, how about you read a book, boy? And of course, the whole class laughed at him. He thinks to himself he really should have let the trio of girls die back then. But something doesn't add up. This is too suspicious. If they're so worried about monsters, why is there nothing in their history or culture about demons at all? Watching the training, he notices that just like Leonora said, everyone is improving at an incredible pace. The strongest are Narumi, Arashi, Kenzaki, Hashimoto, and Nagas. But even more than them, there's one person growing at a truly insane rate. Someone attacks, a sword spins out of his hand and sticks into the ground, and the soldier immediately surrenders. Of course, it's Mido. He thanks everyone for their advice and says it's thanks to them he's growing so fast. Araji checks his stats. Mido is already rank A in attack, and his divine protection is level 8. Araji thinks, unbelievable. Just a week ago, this guy's stats were low. Even among us who are all growing quickly, this guy stands out as a real genius. But could it be that divine protection affects more than just power? The classmates walk up to the protagonist and sneer. Hey, look, there's the loser. Get out of here. Go read your little books. Araji just thinks to himself, everyone's the same as always, looking at me like they're trying to humiliate me somehow. And now, after getting these powers, they're only getting more reckless. One guy stretches out his hand, asking why he's being ignored. But then something brushes his foot, and suddenly that fool sees himself flipped upside down, while Araji calmly asks, what happened, Muda? You tripped for no reason? You alright? The poor guy has no idea what just happened. That's when Arashi steps in, telling everyone to calm down, because they're coming. The Saint and Gaius appear, watching them all. She praises their work and says they've been developing faster than she expected, which is why the time has come to move forward with the plan. Narumi immediately asks, you crazy saint, don't tell me you're gonna ask us to kill the Demon King already? She replies, of course not, she wouldn't go that far yet. All she wants is for them to start training by fighting monsters. The group is hesitant. No one's eager to put their life on the line. Araji, though, looks more worried than anyone else. In reality, he probably won't even have to fight, so he should just relax. Next chapter, they're explaining how the combat exercises will work in the forest. The place is full of obstacles. so they won't be able to move in big groups. That's why they'll be split into teams of 2 or 3. Right away, the eager girls jump in. Mido, can I go with you? I want to go with you too. He of course accepts. The guy's got women clinging to him, the harem practically building itself. Meanwhile, poor Arashi ends up stuck with a bunch of guys around him. Narumi uses his pretty boy charm to pair up with a purple-haired girl. Gaius beams, saying everyone's formed incredible teams. But there are still 2 people standing off to the side. The blonde girl admits it looks like no one wants to team up with her. Apparently, it's because everyone's afraid. She tells Araji they don't really have a choice, so they'll have to go together. He says he doesn't mind, while thinking it's odd that he got paired up with Kenzaki Rin of all people. She's confident that her personality feels somewhat dull. On top of that, she's prideful, the type who won't let anyone block her path. She glares at him and asks, "What are you staring at, loser?" Araji just turns his head slightly and answers, "Nothing important." She turns away too, and it already feels like they'll make a solid pair. Then the Sing announces a special mission. Whoever kills the most creatures will receive prizes. With that, the tests begin. Inside the forest, Araji trails a little behind, while Kenzaki declares her ability is superior to everyone's, so he should just stand back and not get in her way. Araji shrugs. "All right then, go ahead, strong girl. Handle it." She looks a little hurt and asks if he has no pride at all, saying something like that. But he's thinking he doesn't care about any of it. He's more interested in observing her combat skills. After all, he's already sensed 4 strange presences surrounding them. Suddenly, a shabby goblin shows up, and Kenzaki asks if that's the monster they were supposed to fight. The creature approaches, but she simply stretches out her hand and orders it to kneel. Immediately, it slams face first into the ground. Araji is impressed. Her domination ability really is powerful. Basically, any command she gives directly influences her target's actions. But Araji points out there are still others around them. She orders the goblin to drop its weapon and put its hands behind its back. Soon enough, though, sweat beads on her forehead, and Araji asks, "What's wrong? Already tired?" She admits she can't keep using her blessing for very long. Araji understands it must consume a lot of mana. Araji warns her it's better to finish that one off quickly because more creatures are coming. But Kenzaki hesitates, saying that monster, whether she likes it or not, looked almost human, and it was even crying in fear. The protagonist tells her it's strange for her to say that since the thing literally just attacked them. Clearly, it's an enemy and there's no reason to let it live. She admits she already knows that. Araji thinks that even though she has good power, she's still too weak. She's used to peace, and in dangerous moments like this, hesitation will only get her killed. And sure enough, right in front of them, 3 more appear. Calmly holding a stone, Araji tells her, "They're here, girl." She answers that she knows, uses her word magic again, and the 3 drop to the ground. Araji doesn't move. He just asks, "So, what are you going to do now? Tell me." She snaps at him to stop standing around and do something to help her. But he replies, "Wait, weren't you the one who told me not to do anything at all?" Realizing she's contradicting herself, she says, "Fine then. She'll do whatever it takes." She orders the monsters to snap their own necks, and incredibly, it works. Araji thought they'd hesitate and she'd have to improvise somehow, but no, it actually worked. Even he's impressed. "You can force a command like that?" She admits she can, but unfortunately, it's harder and the success rate is low. Now that she's felt how it works, she realizes it won't be easy. Araji reminds her that these monsters are enemies who attack them. Whether they're creatures or even humans, they have to kill anyone who tries to kill them, unless she's not interested in staying alive. Kenzaki frowns, asking why he's so calm when he doesn't even have a power. He tells her not to worry, staying calm is one of his better traits. Then he asks, "So, what now? You want to head back since you're scared?" Kenzaki freezes for a second, but turns away, saying, "No way, we're moving forward." Araji thinks that since she's this motivated, maybe their team will work out after all. They start wondering how the others are doing. Narumi is sprinting through the forest in a panic with the only girl who agreed to team up with him. He asks what they should do, and she admits she has no idea. She thought the monsters would be weaker. Suddenly, Narumi stops and declares it's all or nothing. At the same time, he unleashes a burst of wind, she launches a rock bullet, and they combine the attacks to hurl a massive stone. But when it crashes into the creature, it doesn't do a thing. Narumi stumbles back, terrified at what they've run into. Turns out they're up against an armored bear. That's just cruel, throwing side characters against something like that. Next chapter, Kenzaki is thinking she has to give everything she has so she can return to her world and see her grandfather. She's sure he must be very sad without her right now. Araji, however, asks, "So, what's the plan, girl? Feels like we're kind of lost, don't you think?" She tells him not to worry. They're moving in a straight line, so all they need to do is keep going and then head back. But Araji responds that she's underestimating this forest. She snaps at him to shut up, and he realizes her biggest flaw is that she's overly confident and full of herself. He tells her to stop staring at him, when suddenly they both hear a scream. Kenzaki instantly recognizes it as Hashimoto's voice. When Araji asks what they should do, she says they're going to help. He finds it odd. Why is she suddenly acting so kind? She tells him to quit nagging and hurry up. Elsewhere in the forest, Hashimoto is being slammed to the ground, completely battered. Narumi shouts, asking if she's okay, and and she answers yes, but begs him to just run. He grabs her, saying there's no way he's leaving her behind alone. Nice words, but when he looks back and sees that armored bear's paw coming down, he nearly soils himself. Then suddenly, some power freezes the monster in place. It's Kanzaki using her command ability. Narumi asks what they're doing there, and she warns it won't last long. Araji glances over and realizes, of course, her power is weaker against stronger creature, right? Based on his motivations, maybe it's about money. And there he is, standing confidently on top of a rock, pointing north on the map. Meanwhile, down below, Luina seems to be beating the life out of everyone. A little while later, a bunch of students are already lying on the ground, knocked out, and she asks if he at least found something. He says they're going to have to head north. The downside is the path is full of people. But for her, that's perfect. She's ready to wipe out the next group. Just then, though, a giant fireball comes flying at them like a comet. Someone approaches, saying they finally met. A blonde guy and a girl who already looks like she's about to lose. Carlos Deniv. Yeah, even his name sounds like he's going to get wrecked. Luina says it was a cheap shot, but he replies that this is real combat practice. They'd better know they won't get away now that fate brought them together. Luina doesn't understand why this guy's so angry. Fernan says it's obvious. It's because he stole her from him. She tells him to quit with that. She doesn't belong to anyone, so there was no stealing. Apparently, this blue-haired guy wanted to pair up with her. And now Carlos is all red in the face, shouting at them to come fight. Fernan realizes that fighting is inevitable at this point. Luina thanks him, saying their rank is higher, more points for them. He tells her to go ahead and charge in. He knows there's no stopping her. If anything, he'll provide backup. But she says she won't need it. They hadn't coordinated anything anyway. How would they even be in sync? Meanwhile, Fernan's already lifting chunks of earth with magic, telling her not to worry. Stones fly everywhere. He tells her to trust him. And the crazy part is this guy doesn't even specialize in earth magic. Just wait until he finally uses fire. The next chapter opens with the Gothic professor saying there's a good fight going on. It's on the Eastern Mountain. No monsters are supposed to appear there, so it's worth checking out. Turns out the two teams she'd been watching are now clashing. It was finally time for her to see what Fernan Felenberg could really do. And there he is, hurling boulders while Luina charges in. It's a real fight between powerhouses. She thought the blue-haired guy was a swordsman, but apparently he's a mage. Seems like every guy in this world is a mage. Our dear Luina is confused. Her body feels incredibly light. There's only one explanation. Felenberg used support magic, but when did he even cast it? He's too smooth with it, already backing her up mid-fight. She glances over and gives her a wink. She realizes he's insane. Right then, she almost gets slashed by the other girl, but dodges just in time. Now is not the time to be distracted by that idiot. She needs to finish off Alia. She blasts a powerful explosion, and Alia blocks it. Now the two of them are locked in close sword combat. But then Alia's partner fires off a lightning bolt. You'd think Fernan would step in, but no. Luina gets hit. She's paralyzed, unable to move. Alia steps forward, saying this is the end. Luina mutters that it's nothing, but it's too late. Alia activates her aura and says it's over. Then a golden flash streaks across the field. Not lightning, a meteor. No, turns out Fernan used a kind of teleportation. He pulled off a substitution spell and brought her right to his side. She's stunned. What was that? He simply says, magic. It's a new technique he developed with his family. Turns out it's pretty useful, and this was the perfect time to use it. It allows him to switch out anything that has the exact same weight. She asks how he knows her exact weight. He replies that it's all recorded in the Academy's student registry. She laughs, saying that stone must have been really heavy. They nearly attacked again, but the scene cuts off just before they do. She immediately says she's going to have to erase those student records later, but for now it's time to deal with this fight. She tells Fernan to back off and charges at the opponents. She asks him to at least hold off that annoying Carlos while she takes on Alia. Right then, a magic circle appears near Fernan. He's thrilled. Finally, the guy is using what he actually knows. Carlos specialized in lightning magic, and one of his signature techniques was creating an orb that releases multiple lightning bolts, what they called multicasting. That spell was one of the reasons he was ranked so high in the department. And now Fernan could finally test something out to see if it worked. He slammed his staff into the ground and started chanting in some strange language. Carlos was doing the same, muttering in that weird, mystical tone. Suddenly, everyone felt something was off. Someone shouted Fernan's name. He had just been struck with a lightning bolt right to the head. Smoke everywhere. That was already the second time he'd been fried. But of course, he was totally fine. Carlos was in disbelief. How had the entire lightning spell been blocked? On the ground, there was an item. Clearly something he used. Probably super expensive. The kind of thing only he could afford. Fernan explained it was something that could store energy. He just made a few adjustments and apparently worked really well. Once he fine-tunes it a bit more, he's planning to sell it in stores. Carlos says that artifact is cheating, but Fernan replies there's no such thing as cheating or cowardice on the battlefield. This was a real fight after all. Then he calls out to Luina. Carlos turns around worried about Alia, but Fernan had already given the command to finish it. Luina's bright blue eyes flare as she lands a clean hit. Nearby, the top two students, probably number 1 and 2, are watching. The Prince Ledger, the blonde one, remarks that there are only 4 people left now. Alan, the number 1 ranked student, says what really interests him is how Fernan blocked Carlos' lightning. Ludger admits he doesn't know much about Fernan. He'd been hiding for a long time, but now that he's teamed up with Birchev, it's going to be tough to keep his powers under wraps. He was unlucky to team up with someone so obsessed with grades. He's definitely going to have to work hard to keep up with her. He really does need to watch himself. This place is full of people trying to take his spot at the top. And sure enough, from behind, more students were showing up. Too bad they're all just background characters who are about to get wrecked. Won't even be worth showing them lose. At first, it seemed like they were heading to fight Ludger, but he turns around and says he'll get everyone safely to the final destination on one condition. They have to team up and take down the duo of No1 and Fernan Felenberg. The next chapter opens with a monster getting sliced. Fernan says they're getting close to the destination, but creatures keep popping up. No1 cheers, thinking they're probably going to be the first to finish. He's busy collecting blood from one of the monsters and asks if it's really necessary. He explains troll blood is incredibly useful for crafting a bunch of potions. She says she already knows that, but come on, with how much money he has, that stuff's basically pocket change. But of course he's greedy. To him, money is money, no matter the amount. She complains and he reminds her. Thanks to that mindset, he managed to buy her. She storms off, saying she's had enough. He teases that she sounds awfully desperate to stay at the top of the ranking. She admits it. There's a very specific reason why she has to be at the top. Suddenly, he says he senses someone approaching. Actually, not just someone, quite a few people. Right away, they're surrounded. Magic starts flying, stones come hurling through the air. He raises a barrier and slices down the first few attackers. What the hell? It all happens so fast. Someone's charging straight at No1 with a sword, and wouldn't you know it, it's Alan Donuts, the same guy who already got beaten by Ain't. Now it's her turn to take him down. They trade blows in a clean fight, but the impact sends both of them flying back. They manage to land just fine, and as usual, she's fired up. They immediately charge at each other again. She activates her aura and tells him to bring it on. He stays silent, though, and keeps fighting. Another solid sword clash. But then a strange movement cuts through the middle of everything. And suddenly, another mage appears, flames in hand. Wait a second, that's not just any mage. Isn't that the guy ranked second, Ludger? But before anything else happens, a wave of dark energy sweeps across the entire field, heading right for him. I honestly don't even know who cast it. This fight's gotten way too chaotic. The blonde guy's smiling. Oh, of course, our boy Fernan took things seriously. He's hurling fire and stones everywhere now. A massive explosion goes off right in front of the whole crowd of students. The other guy complains he was only trying to test Fernan to see how he react. No need to go all out and vaporize everything. He says that kind of effort isn't like Fernan at all. But Fernan just answers that this time he wants to make sure they finish in first place. The guy smiles and says it's a shame, because they can't really win. They can't settle this peacefully, but if they fight now, neither team will be able to finish. So how about this? Let Fernan and No1 take first, and they'll settle for second. That way, both sides come out ahead. Looks like Fernan's about to show what he's really capable of, and he absolutely does. He basically humiliates the guy, telling him that unfortunately, they'll have to wait until next time. The guy clearly picks up on the hint. Right then, Fernan throws down a massive portal beneath everyone. A huge magic circle appears as the ground splits. He's tearing up the entire forest. At the same time, he throws up a barrier around him and No1. Turns out they had set up this trap ahead of time. But by then, it was already too late. Everyone else is sealed inside a stone cocoon. Fernan calls out to her, telling her it's time to go. Wait, are they really just gonna leave like that? No way it ends that easily. But it does. The headmaster congratulates everyone and announces the rankings. First place, No1 Birchev and Fernan Felenberg. Those other two grumble, and second placed, totally wiped. Fernan compliments No1 on the result. She admits she didn't expect them to actually come out on top. She thought it was unfair since they didn't go up against the strongest. But he tells her that doesn't matter. In the end, they still won. The professor announces the official end and reminds everyone not to wander around. At that moment, No1 asks about Ain Armian. She explains that she saw him the night before. She had been training and stumbled upon something interesting. She describes it in the exact same way Fernan described her when he first saw her sword dance. Suddenly, Fernan puts a hand over his face. At first, it seems like he's just confused, because after all, he's been trying to win No1 over. But now she's clearly fascinated by another guy's sword skills. But no, that's not it. It's something to do with the prophecy. Another part of it has just been revealed. Apparently, Ain Armian reached out his hands and asked No1 to become his knight, but she refused. Now Fernan can't make sense of what's happening. Even the prophecy is getting scrambled. The text is all flipped upside down. He can't even read it properly. There's something apocalyptic coming, and it looks like Ain Armian is its target. But someone, a female knight, stood in front of him. And now the story is shifting. This wasn't how the future was supposed to go. Ain asked what she thought she was doing, and she answered, "Today I'll be your knight, just like you asked." She said she was born to wield a sword and destroy the enemies of lords. And with that, she ran forward to face the demon Andromalius. Fernan can't understand why any of this is happening, and apparently she ends up in rough shape after the battle. This new vision of the future seems complete now. It feels like we're stepping into a whole different story. She wakes up in the hospital with Ain't smiling beside her, just grateful she survived. But the blonde guy swore he'd destroy those bastards who tried to hurt her and ruin the future of the Berkov family. And it really seems like he's angry at a certain type of rich bastard. There's only one person that could be. The rich bastard himself, that scumbag. Suddenly, someone calls out to Fernan again. It's the professors and Luina asking if he's okay. He's just standing there, totally zoned out. He answers that he's just a little exhausted, but he's fine. While the professor starts talking about taking him to the infirmary, he's more focused on the fact that he finally figured out why an Armian will see him as an enemy. What he can't understand is why the prophecy has changed, and why everything now seems to revolve around Luina. What's even stranger is that it feels like whatever's coming is happening soon. Meaning the demon Andromalius is about to show up. And to be honest, doesn't that bastard kind of look like his dad with that same tired face? Next chapter. Ain is praising our boy for coming in first place, and the kid just walks into the carriage saying he's exhausted. He'd been thinking about that Andromalius guide, the 72nd demon. Man, what a number to remember. The creature takes on a human form but has a little snake on his arm. No matter how many books our boy searches through, that's the only info he can find on the bastard, which makes sense. Really, he showed up during the war 1,000 years ago. So how is there supposed to be any detailed information on that freak? Those things were all wiped out by the first emperor and haven't been seen since. Still, he's relatively calm. Ain's going to deal with that guy anyway, so it's not really his problem. The real issue is that it looks like Luina's going to get hurt in all of this, and now he's wondering, should he tell her what's going to happen to her? He tried bringing it up, but all she did was ask if he's losing his mind. He asked her, "Hey, do you believe in demons?" That just confused her even more. He pushed her to give a straight answer, and she finally said yes, she does. After all, this entire nation was built to fight demons back in the day. Then he asks what she thinks about the idea that demons still exist. And of course, she once again asks if he hit his head and completely lost it. Now he's sitting there trying to figure out what could possibly convince this girl when an idea hits him. In a month, during one of the knight's training sessions, Ain is going to defeat Kalbunder, the second strongest one. And from that point on, nobody can really compare to Ain. But the loser in this case doesn't just lose the fight. No, it's worse. It's like their honor and their standing with their family gets wrecked too. The redhead realized he completely misjudged Ain. He thought the kid would be pathetic, but he was dead wrong. That burning frustration ends up pushing Kalbunder over the edge, and in the end, he gets possessed by a demon. And it's right then that the creatures start to appear. If our boy can use that moment to persuade her, it might be the perfect chance. Next scene. We switch over to Ain's little ghost friend, who says not to trust those two families getting close. The only ones who could have stood by him in the past were always the Berchevs. Turns out, our boy already knows about the ghost's little chat. What the hell? He's already got almost all the info he needs to carry out his plan, but there are still a few missing pieces. He knows those pieces are going to show up eventually, but this time it's taking forever, and it seems like he needs to meet some kind of condition first, whatever that means. The scene then cuts to Ain in his room looking over everything that happened, how our boy got first place with the Berchev girl. The ghost says it was all thanks to her, coming from a proper family. There's no way that Felenberg guy was any help. That bastard only cares about money. But Ain explains that nowadays the Felenbergs have way more influence than the Berchevs. The ghost blames himself, saying it's all because he backed those bastards 1,000 years ago. Suddenly, he gets an idea and tells Ain to ask the Felenberg boy for money. The blonde guy is confused, but the ghost insists this is the perfect chance, especially since Fernan actually seems to like him. The ghost convinced the guy wants to build some kind of relationship with the Armians, and the Felenbergs always use money as bait to get what they want. So now Ain's wondering, did Fernan only get close to him because of something else? His family's already ruined, so what could he even offer? The ghost tells him to stop putting himself down like that. He says the reason doesn't matter. He's just sure a Felenberg would act like that. Apparently, they're still behaving the exact same way they did 1,000 years ago. But poor Ain says there's no way our boy would do something like that. He seems like a genuinely kind person. The first time they met, he immediately gave Ain a ridiculously high-ranking title just to help him out. No way he sees that guy as cold and calculating. He says it'd be dishonorable to ask for money, but the ghost starts scolding him, reminding him that even the first emperor, who was insanely powerful, unlike him, needed help. So he better learn to beg and get some money from the Felenbergs. Cut to the next scene. Ain is crushed. He didn't get to meet Fernan. Ain says Fernan must have too much going on. The guy's got to take care of the guild, the merchants, and keep up with his studies. Ain just asked them to make one thing clear. He's not just anybody. He's Ain. But Fernan replied saying he was too busy and told him to come back later. So Ain turns around. What can he do? He came all that way to ask for money, and now he's walking away empty-handed, feeling completely humiliated. But Fernan is watching from the window. He finds it strange. He hasn't even thrown out enough bait for Ain to show up like that already. Hyde walks in and says he already sent the kid away, then asks why Fernan's pushing him off when just a few days ago, he was talking about getting closer to him. Fernan says it's because it's weird he came so suddenly. Everyone who seeks out the Felenbergs usually has an obvious reason. He knows why Ink came, and that's exactly why he's even more suspicious. It's not normal for someone like him to go that far just to ask for money. That's why he sent him away. He has a feeling Ink came to ask for help, even if he didn't want to. And for now, it's best not to offer anything unless he truly trusts the boy. Hyde thinks he's overthinking it, wasting too much brainpower on the descendant of the fallen family. But Fernan just says the kid's got talent, and he's sure it'll be worth it. Hyde agrees, but says it's weird that Fernan sent him away, if that's how he really feels. Fernan tells him to stop complaining and just go to the family warehouse to grab some elixirs. Looks like that's what he plans to give Ain't. Hyde says it's risky. If they hand over one of those ultra-rare elixirs and they don't work, they'll end up losing out. Fernan, however, says that if the most expensive one didn't work, they'll just make an even more expensive one. In this life, if you haven't succeeded yet, it just means you haven't spent enough money. Back in Ain't's room, the little ghost is kind of stunned by the audacity. I mean, they didn't even send the boy himself, just a servant. At least they sent a letter of apology. He says he wants to take a look since the Felenbergs are usually pretty polite. Our boy always refers to himself as somebody in the letter, which basically means someone more experienced. And that really ticks the ghost off. But what really gets Ain't's attention is the gift. He checks it right away. It's an elixir infused with the spirit of the sacred bird, and it's perfect for the army and sword style. Right then and there, Ain't says that Fernan's really something. Even if he didn't give him money, he still offered something incredibly valuable. While Ain't gets emotional, he says he always knew Fernan was kind. Now he's more determined than ever to keep working hard and live up to Fernan's expectations. Next chapter, Fernan asks how it went, and Hyde says Ain't easily defeated Varen Kalbunder. Even though Varen had a slightly more advanced sword technique, Ain't's aura was just overwhelming. Fernan asks if that's thanks to the elixir he sent, and Hyde says it probably helped a bit. But judging by Fernan's smile, Hyde says it seems like Ain't would have won with or without it. Fernan simply replies, that's something we'll never know. What really matters is that, just like the prophecy said, Varen was defeated, and now he's going to be possessed by a demon. He tells Hyde to keep a close watch on Varen Kalbunder and find out what he's up to. He needs to know when and how this guy's going to make contact with the demon. He also says to keep an eye especially on where he goes, who he interacts with, and what he talks about. Hyde doesn't seem too interested, but Fernan insists. He needs to know everything that Varen does. The days go by, and soon Fernan is receiving updates about everything, from when Varen goes to the bathroom, to when he trains every class he takes, and who he talks to. 2 weeks passed since the start of this whole surveillance operation, and still nothing. Fernan is sure something's wrong. According to the prophecy's timeline, demons should have started appearing and destruction should have begun. Looks like either Hyde's slacking on the job or maybe the details of the prophecy about the possession were off. The prophecy stated that after being defeated by Ain't, Varen would grow in rage and confront him again during the mid-year exams. But the outcome would already be decided. Ain't, taught by the spirit of Gardner, would completely overpower him. And sure enough, he beat him, leaving the guy knocked out on the ground. But what Ain't didn't realize was that a strange demonic energy had started to seep into Varen's body. Suddenly, Fernan wakes up. It's morning. Apparently, he slept through the night and dreamt the whole prophecy. This time, it wasn't like before when the visions would come to him directly. It was more like a dream. Still, it seems he finally knows exactly when Varen will be possessed. During the mid-year exams after being defeated by Ain't. And here's the kicker. That exam? Yeah, it's today. The damn prophecy caught him off guard. He wasn't expecting it to be right now. Hyde walks in and tells him that finally he's waking up early and it's time for breakfast. But then he sees Fernan storing a bunch of items into his portal, including his Zelda-looking shield, and asks what's going on. Fernan just says he's going to watch the first year's fight and might need some backup, so Hyde better come along. But no way. Hyde refuses. Turns out he was summoned to the Duke's territory, and Fernan just accepts it, saying it's fine. He'll take someone else. Hyde finds it strange, though. He knows Fernan doesn't have any friends at this academy. Fernan insists, claiming he's being slandered. He does have friends, all right. Look, friends he bought with money. Luina, now confused, wants to know what that's all about. He tells her he needs an escort to go pick up some elixir. She's not exactly thrilled, saying it's exam time, but then she mentions she could use a little help since she's being sponsored. The moment Fernan offers to reduce her debt, she immediately says she's in. When she asks where they're going, he says it's up in the northern mountains. She points out that the first years are taking their mid-year exams right now, so going up there is borderline insanity. She warns him if they interfere with the exam, both of them could get expelled for it. But then it hits her. If he's being allowed into the area, he must have bribed someone to let them in. He just smiles, saying the professors are surprisingly flexible. But suddenly, she says she's heading back to the dorm. He tells her to hurry up and come back. They're not gonna get caught. What kind of knight goes back on her word, he says. She tells him that's not it. She just forgot her little sword. He tells her to get moving already, says she'll come skipping and singing all the way. Obviously, they needed to be at that place, counted among those present, to witness everything going down. And there they are. Fernan reminds her that he paid off the professor to let them in, but they still can't afford to get caught. She immediately scolds him, saying he knew this was shady and wrong, and doing all of it anyway only made it worse. He tells her she's such a good kid and says he's going to check where they need to go. He vaguely remembers the location from the map. It's where Ing's fight happens. And finally, he gets to face Varen, who's turning into a demon with the right person beside him. He calls out for her to come with him. She's still focused on how he even got a full map of the entire test area. Clearly, the bastard paid a lot to that professor. He tells her to stop complaining and hurry up. But then, something feels off. Luna asks if that wasn't the sound of a monster just now. Fernan instantly feels something strange too. She says they need to help the first years. The bastard tells her to wait, but she takes off running ahead. She shouts back that someone's unconscious, but it looks like they had a defensive spell up, so they managed to survive. The problem is, whatever did this is weird. Creatures in this region aren't usually that aggressive. Fernan can't believe it. It's already started. And again, that eerie roar echoes through the trees. Luina asks what the hell is going on ahead of them. Why is the entire forest exploding? Then she asks, where even are they? When she glances to the side, something's approaching, and here comes an orc, mace in hand. But Luina doesn't hesitate. She slices clean through its arm, sending the chunk flying to the ground. But the creature keeps advancing and she's confused. She just hacked his arm off. Why won't it stop? Then chunks of rock start flying. Don't worry, the Money King himself is chucking boulders at its back. The beast keeps charging anyway. More stones slam into its chest in a barrage. Luina manages to dash past, stepping off a tree and dodging another attack in midair. She lands beside Fernan, confused, asking what the hell is going on. He explains it's a creature that's gone berserk. In that state, it won't feel any pain. This kind of monster is on a completely different level from the usual ones, and it's obsessed with killing anything alive it sees. She wants to know why that is. And of course, Fernan already has an idea. It's because of the prophecies and everything that's coming. While the professors are busy dealing with those monsters, Varen is going to attack Ink. Obviously, Ink should struggle against someone that strong. But just like in any story, the protagonist awakens a new power and ends up winning with ease. Luina tells Fernan to stop laughing and answer her. What the hell is that monster? He simply raises his staff and tells her to calm down. There's nothing to worry about. He's going to take care of that bastard first. We see the map start to break apart. Is the prophecy unraveling? Is he changing the future? Who knows? Someone crashes to the ground, completely beaten, calling out for Ain Armian. It's the poor redhead who's already been defeated. He tells Ain not to turn his back, that it's not over yet. But Ain just tells him to accept it. It's done. He's been defeated again. As obvious as those words were, they leave the boy stunned. He remembers the blonde guy, maybe his dad, or maybe that friend of his, saying that clearly he expected too much of him. He's already failed to meet the prince's expectations and now is about to be humiliated by his father once again. At this rate, he'll lose his place in the family. He has to win this fight somehow. This time, he has to defeat Ain Armian. Out of nowhere, a blur comes flying at him. He charges, yelling that it's not over yet. But Ain turns with a smile while the guy is practically exploding with rage. Still, all it takes is a clean set of strikes, and he collapses like trash onto the ground. Ain laughs, saying it's funny how hard this guy tries, even though he's so weak. He's nothing but a disgrace attacking from behind like that, no honor at all. Ain turns and walks away while his spirit companion keeps laying into the guy, calling him a worm who disgraces the honor of knights. Back with our dynamic duo, looks like they just finished off the monster and Luina is telling Fernan, please give up on this elixir thing. This forest is way too dangerous. But Fernan says, come on, Luina, you just defeated one of those creatures. That proves I can keep going. She asks if he's lost his mind, but he throws the same question back at her. He tells her that elixir is worth too much. And besides, even if those creatures are relentless, they do die in the end. That's when she questions him. Did he know something like this was going to happen? Is that why he dragged her along as an escort? He says no, obviously not. It's not like he has visions of the future, right? She still isn't convinced. Says something about all this feels off, but he just says there's something he has to do. The elixir is too important, and takes off running while she shouts that he's a lunatic. Sometime later, they come across someone collapsed on the ground. Luina looks confused, wondering what this has to do with the elixir. But Fernan sees the red hair and already knows. It's that loser who got beaten down. Luina tells him to stay put. She'll go check who it is. As she gets closer, she sees Varen Kalbunder, or Kalbunder Varen, whichever name he's going by this time. She says he looks like he was defeated in a fight, but he's good. So who did this to him? Fernan says they need to leave now, but she refuses, says they can't just leave someone lying there like that. While she's talking, the guy starts rising behind her. Suddenly, she feels something strange in the air and steps back, asking what that bizarre aura is. She's never felt anything like it. It doesn't seem like the same Kalbunder she knew. Fernan tells her it's demonic energy. In that moment, that bastard had been possessed. What Fernan finds odd is that the guy should awaken his demonic power right after getting beaten by Aint. But now it looks like his target has changed. Something's off. The demon is even starting to fully take over Kalbunder's body. And though Luina seems confused, Fernan knows just by looking into that guy's eyes, it's too late. There's nothing to be done. She, on the other hand, still wants to subdue him somehow. Fernan, though, just taps Luina on the shoulder and tells her to turn around for 10 minutes, when she turns back asking what. He's already vanished. And at that exact moment, Kalbunder is charging at her, sword ready to strike. She yells at him to calm down, telling him it's Birchev. But nope, it's a full-on, no-holds-barred clash of dark power. Her little sword against his massive blade, and she immediately realizes he's strong. At this rate, there's no way she's winning. So boom, she activates her aura. He gets knocked flat on his back like a chump, but in the same instant, he's already recovering, coming at her again. She shouts for him to snap out of it, to come back to his senses. But he grabs his sword again, swings at her, and she's forced to retreat once more. The guy's completely drenched in that cursed aura. While she's there, glowing with her bright little sword, he charges in like a rabid dog. Impact, sword on sword again, and the entire forest shakes with the explosion. She manages to land on her feet, but quickly realizes something's wrong. Her energy is being drained by that demonic power. How the hell is she supposed to beat someone like this? At this pace, she'll be worn out before he is. That's when Fernan suddenly appears, calling her name. Kalbunder turns, but Luina just steps on his head and bolts toward Fernan. She demands to know where he went, how he just vanished like that. He answers that dealing with demons isn't easy. They need a better plan. She's furious, calling it shameful that he left her behind like that. He explains that he didn't run away. He was setting up a trap to finish the demon off. They just needed to wait one more second. And boom. A stone formation erupts from the ground, launching Kalbunder straight up in a circle. From above, a barrage of flaming arrows rains down, slamming him back to the earth. Man, was that a Street Fighter combo? Even Luina yells at him not to overdo it. He almost killed the guy. Fernan tells her to relax. With demonic energy like that, he wasn't going to die that easily. In fact, she should take a closer look. All that did was make him even angrier. Luina tries to say something she noticed during the fight, but he completely ignores her. Instead, he says he'll have to use this. He pulls out a giant crystal. Yep, definitely more of that money-fueled power. More flames start gathering around the redhead. Now he's looking seriously corrupted. Flames engulf him, and finally he collapses, charred and defeated. Fernan lets out a sigh of relief, saying the operation was a success. Luina, however, points out that the item he used was ridiculously expensive. So wasn't that a massive waste? He agrees, but says items like that are meant to be used. She thinks it was overkill, but he's convinced. You can't take down a demon-possessed opponent that easily. Besides, he knows this cursed guy, Fernan Kalbunder, was supposed to be one of the key players in the world's destruction. That's when it hits him. In the story, Ain't Armian was supposed to have a tough fight against this guy and awaken his true power through it. And that's when the realization lands. Sure, Ain't will become stronger than Luina in the future. But right now, when he's just starting at the academy, Luina is still way stronger than him, which means Fernan didn't have to use that expensive item at all. She probably could have handled it herself, just like Ain't eventually would have. She gives him a smack, telling him to snap out of it. All he can think about is how much money he blew on this idiocy. She tells him he's lost focus and needs to get his head together. But right then, Kalbunder starts rising again. Suddenly, he lunges for another attack. But he's all twisted and staggering, like a deranged monkey. And Fernan, he just decks him in the face with a punch, yelling, "How much did I have to spend to take down this bastard?" Kalbunder drops, unconscious, beaten in the messiest way possible. Next chapter, Kalbunder wakes up asking if that really was him. He can't believe it. Something like that just couldn't be real. Fernan just says flatly, that recording from the sphere clearly shows it was you possessed by a demon. There's no faking something like that. Kalbunder keeps insisting that he doesn't remember fighting Ain't Armian at all, nor anything about that fight. Fernan just replies that it's because by the time he fought Ain't, he was already starting to be possessed. Kalbunder pushes back, saying he never even spoke to a demon, never met one. So how could he have been possessed? Fernan says he's not really in the mood to explain and just tells him to watch the recording. He was hit directly in the head by the attack. Dozens of magic arrows pierced your body and a pillar of flames erupted from your feet. The fact that you're still standing here right now proves you were protected by demonic energy. Not to mention, he adds, I hate to admit it, but I had to burn through a lot of expensive items just to handle you. Kalbunder shoots back. If you're just here to complain about the price of the items you had to use, then say so. I'll pay for them. But Fernan goes full drama mode, saying the emotional trauma from that fight was immense. He squeals that during the battle, he constantly saw his life flash before his eyes. Kalbunder cuts in, telling him to just spit it out, and Fernan pulls out a contract. Yeah, that kind of contract. The kind that sounds like something a certain someone else would try. He tells Kalbunder that all of this can be forgotten if he signs the contract. It's just like that deal where someone ends up working until they drop dead. Kalbunder's like, what the hell is this? Is this slavery or something? The terms are excessive, to say the least. Fernan tells him to appreciate the kindness of his senior. He's trying to settle this without creating a big mess. But if Kalbunder refuses, well, Fernan will unfortunately have to forward the video to the Inquisitors. That group serves directly under the Emperor, and their goal has always been the eradication of all demons. Back when demons were the world's greatest threat, the Inquisitors held absolute power. Nowadays, with demons nearly extinct, they're more like a ceremonial organization. But even so, they still hold significant authority, and Fernan knows exactly what kind of people they are. They might have lost power, but they still hoard countless rare items, and they're just waiting for an excuse to return to relevance. So the moment a demon shows up, they'll rush in eager to kill. Calbunder says he understands, but he truly had nothing to do with these demons. Fernan says he knows, but wouldn't it be a shame if he got expelled from the academy over that recording? Just imagine the rumors about the house of Marquis Calbunder once people start saying his son made a pact with a demon. Obviously, that seals the deal. The contract gets signed. Fernan declares that from now on, Calbunder is under his care. Sometime later, someone asks if it's really okay to settle things this way. It's Luina. She thinks they should inform the professors. This is getting too risky, but Fernan says it's not the right time yet. He's convinced based on Calbunder's reaction that he never intended to be manipulated, transformed, or possessed by a demon. What they need to focus on now is that someone within the academy has the power to make that happen. And if this incident goes public, whoever's behind it will simply go into hiding, making it even harder to catch the real culprit. Luina immediately realizes what he's planning. He's going to investigate this himself. What she doesn't understand is why the targets would be students. Fernan says maybe it's because the academy is filled with the people who'll shape the future. Destroying this place would be like destroying the world's future itself. And she gets it. If that's the case, then if he ever needs help exterminating demons, he just needs to call on her. Fernan lights up. Finally, he can ask her for help without having to offer debt forgiveness. Soon enough, she'll realize that was the dumbest promise she could have made. With all that chaos going on, the mid-year exams were officially canceled, but the students still had to be evaluated somehow. So all the practical tests were swapped out for written exams. At this academy, the practical exams are usually the most valued, but of course there are always those nerds who spend the whole day buried in books, right? Now the so-called sword masters had to buckle down and actually study. The blonde kid was deep in his books when Alma spoke up, saying she's trying to make sense of what happened. It's weird. When that boy attacked him, she's sure he was giving off demonic energy or something close to it. But whoever or whatever that demon was, in the end, never fully appeared. Ain says maybe she's exaggerating. Maybe it wasn't a demon at all. But Alma insists it's impossible. She knows that energy, and she tells him to start preparing himself, because that demon is definitely going to show up again. Worse yet, she says he can be sure he'll be one of the targets. Ain asks, why me? Alma replies like it's obvious. He's the one carrying the spirit of the person who wiped out all the demons in the past. Their first move in trying to take over the world would be wiping out the army and bloodline. That's why, from now on, he better not let his guard down, not even for a second. Meanwhile, in the Revera's hall, Fernan is there, clutching his head in pain, and honestly, no one even knows why. Hyde asks what's wrong. Ah, here we go. More messages from the future. Apparently, the next test will involve survival skills. The students are going to be dropped into a southern forest for an entire week. Fernan seems to know exactly which forest they're talking about, and he thinks it's perfect because it contains a certain spiritual herb. Wait, plot twist. Turns out the so-called spiritual herb is actually a trap. It strips away all your protections. Cut to Ain entering a cave. Something, maybe a voice, asks if this is the place and warns that if he doesn't truly intend to find it, he never will. All right, he keeps going and finally he finds it. Bam, he comes face to face with a dragon. When the spiritual beast collapses, it reveals a mithril mine. Alma tells Ain not to leave anything behind. But let's be real, Fernan's probably going to end up with all of it. Mithril is a mana-blessed metal, and it's the only material that allows souls to live inside it. That's why the Emperor's soul is inside Ain's sword. Fernan saw all of this, and now his head's killing him. He's trying to wrap his brain around the idea of a metal that can store souls. And the moment he gets it, he wants it bad. Apparently, Luina was summoned too. She groans. The last time it was a potion, now it's a herb. He tries to brush it off, saying that Tanya was joking. But this time it's legit. He swears it's something valuable. She shouldn't worry about her classes. He's already lined up a ton of excuses for the professors, so she can come with him. He even offers to lower her family's debt. Still, she refuses. But one thing she can't do is miss class, especially not an entire week for something dumb like a spiritual herb. He sighs and says fine, if she won't come, he'll invite someone else. Just then, the door opens. A voice says it's been a while since he's seen Brother Fernan and wishes him a mana-filled day. Oh, who's this strange guy? Luina asks who he is. He introduces himself as Jace Vines. He steps in, all glowing and pure, and wishes her a mana blessing too. Clearly, though, he's here to speak with Fernan. He wants to know how life at the academy has been treating him. Luina immediately asks if they're close. Fernan smirks, saying she sounds surprised, and Jace adds that it makes sense, given the nature of their relationship. Luina says it just doesn't seem right. After all, this Jace guy is the saint of the Church of the Dragon. How is it that a holy man from a religious order and the greediest guy in the school are friends like this? Jace tells her she might not understand since she's not a mage. The Church of the Dragon god originally worshipped the dragons who gave magic to humankind. But over time, their worship shifted. Now, they revere man itself. Because of that, the church kept growing stronger, and nowadays it's basically a mage-run organization. That's why anyone who wants to become an archmage must be recognized by their church. Luina tells him to cut the chatter. She already knows all of that. What she doesn't understand is why he and Fernan are so close. And now everything starts to make sense. Jace explains that an organization dependent on mages definitely needs a lot of money, and Fernan Felenberg just so happens to be the one who supports them the most. Countless church artifacts were created thanks to investments from that guy. That's why the church and Fernan are deeply connected. While the two of them are chatting away, Luina starts to realize once again this bastard solved everything with money. And now she's wondering how the hell Jace is even considered a saint. Jace gently asks her to ease up with the harsh words. It's not like they can refuse Felenberg's help, right? When he sees she's only getting more worked up, he says he was just joking. But she's already walking away, saying she now fully understands the relationship between the two of them. He asks her to wait. They just met, but she says she's not getting involved in any of this. Jace waves goodbye, saying they'll talk again real soon. He blesses her with mana and closes the door. All the weirdos in the room turn their attention to Fernan, wanting to know why they were summoned. Our boy gets right to the point. He needs help collecting some herbs. Jace says spiritual herbs are interesting, sure, but Fernan better not get any ideas. He's keeping everything for himself. What Jace really wants to know is why Fernan's doing all this on the day of the training. With the abilities Fernan has, he could easily head out now and collect everything himself. Fernan answers that if it were that simple, he would have done it already. Unfortunately, he doesn't know the exact location. In theory, the prophecy gives enough hints. We're talking about a massive lake in an enormous forest. And not just that, there are 7 lakes in the southern forest. Fernan has been infusing mana into the lake beds, trying to locate the mana-based reaction tied to the herbs, but no luck so far. This is the kind of hidden cave you can't detect from outside. You literally have to stumble into it. Jace notes that the next survival test will take place right in that area. And navigating a place like that without being detected? Not easy. Fernan says not to worry. He registered himself this year as an assistant for the exam. Jace is puzzled. How is he, a second year, going to act as support staff for first years? Sure, he's older, but he's not that qualified. How did he convince the academy to let him in? Don't tell him it was the goth instructor, the one who always shuts down every scheme. Wait, he didn't even say, did he? Of course, he bribed her. Damn bastard. Jace says he already knows how the merchant gets things done. And hey, if Fernan's getting this involved, just pay him the right amount and Jace will join in too. Contract in hand. And boom, it's test day. Alma is telling Ain't they need to go over the plan one more time. They're here to find the spiritual herb hidden in one of the caves. Yup, Alma knows everything. She tells Ain't to make it look like everything's a coincidence. Just wander around and she'll guide him from there. But Ain't's already noticed that Fernan's hanging around nearby too. Alma warns him to be careful. That bastard's probably looking to rob him of every coin he's got. But Ain't's standing there like a curious puppy. Why is everyone so interested in Fernan? Alright, because he's loaded. Damn it. And look at him. He's already calling out to Fernan, all excited. Just then, the professor calls for everyone to get in position. Ain't's a little disappointed he didn't get a chance to talk to him. Then the camera pans down to the ground where we see a scarecrow, dressed in Fernan's clothes. Our boy bites his finger and collapses on top of the scarecrow. And boom, a Fernan 2.0 rises right up from it. Apparently, that was all Jace is doing. He casually tells Fernan not to worry. He's used this power plenty of times before. Heck, he even fooled the Pope with it once. Fernan finds that very hard to believe. The Pope is one of the most powerful mages alive. Jace admits, sure, it only worked for a few hours, not anything long-term. But hey, while the Pope was fooled, it worked like a charm. Fernan shrugs it off and says that's good enough. If the technique was strong enough to fool the legendary mage, it'll do just fine for his plan. No wonder that redhead bastard is one of the strongest in the Church of the Dragon. But then the demon's voice cuts in, asking what the hell is up with this church's magic, since magic was originally born from demons. And it was when this creature dared to utter such blasphemy that the war between the church and the monsters began. What Fernan's wondering now is whether Jace in the future is going to become one of Ain't's allies. Jace tells him to come back in 5 hours at most. That's when the spell will wear off. Fernan thanks him and heads out, and bam, we're back near Ain't. Our boy knows that the only lake in this region is Lake Farden. And now it's someone else's turn. Yup, guess who steps in front of him again? Calbunder. For real? This guy again? Ain't stunned. The redhead, who only ever gets beat up, has returned. He even asks, hey, come tell me you're here again just to get smacked around. You do realize you don't stand a chance, right? Calbunder knows that's true, but clearly, someone made him come here. When he asks why, Fernan just responds that he clearly doesn't understand the situation he's in. All crook, Calbunder says he still refuses to accept defeat. He's here for one more fight. Ain't's just baffled. Wasn't getting stomped twice enough? You got wrecked with one hit. But Calbunder yells at him to knock it off. He doesn't care if he loses hundreds or even tens of thousands of times. He'll keep challenging Ain't until he earns back his honor. Alma's impressed. At least the guy's got some spirit. He's got the heart to keep going. She even nudges Ain't, asking if he hadn't noticed how much knightly pride this redhead actually has. Maybe he should accept the challenge. Ain't sighs and says fine. Too bad the test today doesn't involve dueling. Calbunder says that doesn't matter. He's not here for the school exam. He's here to fight for his honor. Even the sword spirit is shouting for Ain't to go through with it. He can't run from this. This guy's looking to restore his dignity. He deserves the chance to win. Alma and the sword keep pressuring him while Ain is clearly losing his patience. Fernan, who he thought had already headed to the cave, is just lurking nearby watching everything. He mutters to himself, "Well, it's buying me the time I need." Exactly. Meanwhile, Fernan is off to take care of more important business. At the lake, he sees the barrier is already up. A barrier so strong that even if he were to dig a hole or blow open a crater, no one would hear or see anything inside. It's finally time. Time to use that spell he's been itching to try for a while now. He needs to find that mithril before Ink shows up. That's why he prepared his special summoning. Right then he cast it. "Rise, my servant." The basis of this magic is to gather every useful technique. And the foundation of a merchant? Making absurd amounts of money. How that relates to summoning a golem? Who knows? But boom, there it is, standing tall. And from now on, its name is James. Alright James, let's get to work. We've got a lot of mithril to dig up. Meanwhile, back with Aint. Calbunder is still blocking his way, saying he won't let him pass until he's defeated. Aint's exhausted. The redhead's already been pummeled and is now clinging to Aint's leg like a princess in a drama. Aint just begs him, "For the love of everything, please stop acting like a child." But Calbunder groans that he doesn't want to be doing this either. But unfortunately, he knows all too well what happens if he doesn't obey Fernan. When Aint hears that, he's confused and tells him to repeat it. And Calbunder says, with a totally fake smile, that he's really enjoying doing this. In fact, it's exactly what he wants to be doing. He just loves interacting with people who crush his pride and destroy his future. That's why it would be great if Aint would go ahead and beat him down again. At that moment, Aint just snaps and kicks him, asking what kind of weird kid is this? Calbunder goes flying, lands flat on his butt, then stands up like it's nothing, saying, "Yeah, I am weird." But Aint is already gone. Calbunder checks the time and remembers. Fernan only asked for 1 hour. Looks like he managed to stall Aint for 1 hour and 10 minutes. Good grief, what an exhausting guy. And even after all that, Alma is still nagging him, saying he shouldn't have dismissed the will of a knight like that. Aint just replies that the rules clearly said they weren't allowed to fight during this training. Besides, he was the one who told him to come to this cave in the first place. He's curious to see what's inside. Alma tells him to relax. Whatever's in there isn't something that can be stolen. Very soon he'll get it. There's something extremely rare inside. Something that's going to change his life. All he has to do is take a look down there. And when he does, Aint's expression changes. There was the spiritual herb he'd been looking for. But deeper inside the cave, someone else was already celebrating. Yep, our boy Fernan, along with his trusty golem, scooping up all the mithril. Aint says it's great they found the herb, but how the hell are they supposed to mine all this with a dragon hanging around? Alma says she wasn't expecting a sea dragon to show up now either. But hey, they're already here, so now they have to deal with it. Aint asks if she expects him to go charge at it. Alma tells him that sure, if he wants to end up as lunch, go right ahead. He needs to understand a creature like that is way above his current level. But right at that moment, bonk, a tiny stone hits the dragon. His eyes slowly turn and lock on them. Then it rises. Alma instantly realizes things just got a lot worse. But Aint, he's just standing there, completely certain. Now that the dragon woke up, it was going to be like in that video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers, activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.